Yes, here we are. It's Tuesday. I am live, right? Yep, I am live. Look at that. It
You're
says
live.
31
The
seconds.
video didn't play, but the countdown didn't show up. But
The countdown didn't show up? Yeah, I did.
No.
I was watching it. It didn't show up for you, Chris?
no, it didn't show up for me. But
Okay. Well, it was counting down. I was watching it. Ticked to one, and I, of course, said, hey, here we are.
and we are here.
And we're here, and we're live on the DPB show. Thank you for joining us today. Obviously, Chris is in the background. You just heard him. I'm going to bring him on stage here in a second, but want to get a couple things out really quick before Chris tries to monopolize the show.
I've got some good material today. People be thrilled.
Hey, I told you he's locked and loaded. That's why I won't split the screen right now, because then it'll be a runaway show. We've already had a show within the show before the show, so it's time for the really big show. But anyhow, hey, lost children are being found. Amazing how it is. You know, we hyper focused on one little young person who was apprehended. Yeah, that's right. No, he was taken into custody because they were in the midst of trying to make an arrest, to find out, to do some fact finding. And now supposedly this little young lad that the left was all up in arms about and his supposed father have been released. I don't know anything about it. You know, after some point you just stop following a lot of this stuff. But what I do know, and this is documented, it's factual, that since Trump took office, 145,000 children that were missing under the Biden regime have now been found. Remember, that number was in somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000. So not quite half, but almost half. So for all of the crazies out there, you know, half the kids have been found. I don't know about the little guy that, you know, had that hat on, that crazy little hat that he was wearing, the little blue one. And I don't know his situation of who's right, who's wrong. I, at this point, really don't care, because ultimately I know that things are happening under Tom Homan. He is getting to the bottom of this. We are getting answers, and we're resolving some of these human trafficking issues. Now, granted, not at the rate that Obama did in his tenure as president. In fact, that's the name of the show today. Let's compare Obama with Trump. In fact, no better time to do that before I bring Chris on the horn here is to just well, you're going to see Chris here for a minute. There he is, right there on the left. Chris, I want to play this video. This is something I think that you and I can agree with President Barack Obama about. Here it goes.
We face the prospect that different rules for immigration will apply in different parts of the country. A patchwork of local immigration rules where we all know one clear national standard is needed. Our task then is to make our national laws actually work, to shape a system that reflects our...
He is the king of awkward pauses, right? Nobody, I mean, how long do you wait till he starts again? You're almost like, what's happening? I mean, if it was Mitch O'Connell, you'd think he was having a stroke, but it's not. But anyhow, here we go.
Our values as a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. And that means being honest about the problem and getting past the false debates that divide the country rather than bring it together. For example,
okay,
there are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? I recognize the sense of compassion.
He's compassionate.
That drives this argument.
Yes.
But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration.
Like 20 million more under Joe Biden. Okay, keep going.
Round numbers.
And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah.
Oh, and steal American jobs too. By the way.
Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship. And no matter how decent they are, no matter their reasons, the 11 million who broke these laws should be held accountable. We face the prospect.
It's actually more than that now. The 11 million is actually 21 to 22 million is what is being reported. That was from Dr. Pelura, actually. He posted that this morning. I had to grab it real quick because it's not always that you get those videos, Chris. But
Yeah.
Was there anything that he said? I mean, in fact, that's the title of it.
Yeah. So
It says, this is the best speech I've heard as to why we need to follow the laws. We are a nation of laws. I agree with you.
Well, so in order to have a country, you have to have borders. And it's not a country until you have borders. And so that's part of the problem with the whole Native American argument is there were no borders. There was no legal setup. There were nomads that roamed the prairie looking for the next food spot to
their livelihood. They were looking to survive.
There were nomadic people who chased the buffalo around, and they also, when you look at the history of it, they went to a place, they used up the soil, and then moved on to a new place where they could be fruitful again. So that was really their that was the way that they lived their lives.
That was their existence. Well, and obviously, as time has changed and the population has grown in these United States of America, and we've had a lot of history. It's funny that naysayers, especially those on the loony lefties, how they talk about the fact that this is stolen land. Well, it's interesting because I'm assuming that most of the people that make that comment either are in a leasehold estate, meaning they are renting a piece of property, or they've actually gone all in and they own a piece of property, meaning they have a mortgage, or they might own their property outright. And so technically speaking, then, if we're all living on stolen land, aren't they living in a stolen residence, whether it's in a leasehold estate or in a mortgage? Because then how could they have really ownership or a leasehold estate if it's all predicated on stolen land? So they should probably compromise and have compassion and give back whatever holdings they have to, I don't know who.
Well, that's the real problem is that there were multiple tribes. There were a lot of tribes, and their lands constantly shifted, and there was no consistency. And if you go far enough back, there were no humans, and they came across the land bridge. So how far back do we have to go? Who gets first dibs on this whole thing? It's really a maddening, crazy sort of argument when you start to try and unwrap it. And then you want to apply the same thing to Europe and Africa and all the other continents. It just becomes insanity.
Well, it gets back to what we were talking about. Obviously, Russia, China, Iran, Europe, India, the United States of America, Mexico, Canada, all of us have a vested interest in making sure that our countries are economically positioned to take care of the people and the structures we put in place. Now, granted, China is obviously a superpower. Russia is a superpower. the United States is a superpower, and we're going to do everything in our, within our power, to use the word power a few more times. Power. We're going to use all avenues, all resources to make sure that we solidify the way of life that we've basically put together. Now, granted, communism is different than socialism, and socialism is much different than a constitutional republic, because yours truly does not live in a democracy. Once again, we have representatives who we vote into office. We are a constitutional republic. And I guess that's the thing. That's what conflicts are fought over. That's what land acquisitions are. It's why it is that we have an interest in Greenland, is because we want to make sure that the 360 million, give or take a few million on any given census, that our way of life here in the United States of America, the best place in the world to live, is taken care of. We have that responsibility.
Yeah, and then there's the question of who stole it. Did the French steal it and we bought it from them? Did the Russians steal Alaska from the Eskimos and we bought it from them? In Spain, the same way. There's a lot of different issues that revolve around all those topics. And kind of going back to the idea of immigration, is that we can't allow people. What's the difference between immigration?
So,
what's the difference between immigration?
Sorry, you heard me load my next video.
Yeah,
apologize.
Yeah, no,
that is wrong.
That's the difference. Immigration becomes invasion when it isn't legally done.
All right, so we heard Obama, and we can agree with him. Now let's hear from Hillary Clinton. This also was shared by Dr. Tom Pelora. Bless her heart, he says, she and I think alike on this issue.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
Now, wait a second. She is flat up a racist by saying that. Come on.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows.
Okay.
Here's where I find the hypocrisy of it all is that once they say that and they run on that, you introduce a bill that says exactly that, and then it fails miserably because the Democrats all vote against it. And they've been voting against those types of bills consistently over the last 20 years. Even it was way back when Bill O'Reilly still had a show on Fox News, and he was trying to get a rule passed that if you're here illegally and you commit a crime, you get tossed out of the country. And all these Democrat politicians are running on that for the presidency, but then when it comes to putting it into place, they run away.
All right. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, I have one more video. And here's Charlie Kirk. Obviously, God rest his soul, which he is, because I know he's basking in the glory of eternal life. Unfortunately, a life taken too soon. But here's Charlie kind of breaking down a little bit about what we were just saying, especially because we have a history. We have a documented history of how things ended up where they're at today. I think Charlie does a great job explaining this right here.
Spiritual battle is coming to the West. And the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, Allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down. Send them to a good school. Have a low crime neighborhood. Not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school. While also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep.
Yes, and you know what? That obviously Hillary or Obama weren't going to say that, but at the end of the day, Chris, I really believe that we are facing, in light of what transpired at the church in Minneapolis, and we know that this has been percolating and simmering in other nations, but I do believe that that those who are out there that oppose most of the common laws of this land, the federal laws that have been put in place that have come from our constitution and the documents that surround the Constitution and the laws that surround it. And they know that the very fiber is a faith, and that's where they are turning their target on. And I'm not necessarily, and I agree. I mean, there's a lot of communities that have come along and here in the last 10 years, not 20, but 10, that are predominantly Muslim communities, driven. We were talking about before the show on how Steve Bannon in the War Room covers a little bit about the Sharia law and where that is. Well, that's basically what Charlie's saying is, this is right here, right now. And that's a whole nother tentacle of the American way of life. Immigration, obviously, is a part of that from the standpoint that they need as many people showing up here as they can possibly get, because it does impact the world. Indirectly, it definitely impacts us here in the United States, but it definitely impacts the world, because the world itself is hanging by a thread, I believe, in so many different ways. I mean, I'm not trying to blackpill. I think there's plenty of pushback, because there's plenty of people who get it and understand it, and they know that truly, at the end of the day, as I said, they still love to use their Diner's Dash, or whatever they call DoorDash. They still want to go and get all of the luxuries of the American way of life, but they, for some reason, are in direct opposition to the very structure of government that has provided all of these things that they tend to be using. Even, in fact, the ability to go down and protest. How did they get there? Well, they probably drove in their car. They took a transit of some sort. Where did they come from when they came to the protest? Well, they probably came from a place like I was just talking about, that they rent, or whether they pay, or a lot of them, as according to some other people, I don't get into people's business. A lot of people say they live in their parents' basements. But I think these folks are much older than living in their parents' basement. Not to say some of them aren't. But I think there is so much that is, they've created a tentacle process of locking down so many aspects of life as we know it in America, that it is going to take years, I think, to somewhat get us free from that. I think that you just don't turn this thing around. I mean, 20 million people, which gets back to my point about Obama versus Trump. During Obama's presidencies and his time in office, 56 people were killed in custody under Obama. Well, that's not Trump. I mean, granted, now they're going to report the 2 in Minneapolis and try to, come up with a few more. But 56 lives were lost. They were in custody by the federal government for deportation. He deported 3.1 million people, which to me, I just am like blown away by that he deported more than any other president in the history of the United States of America. And yet, where is the public protest? Where is the public outcry? Where are all the whistleblowers and all the crazies? Where are they? Because they don't exist. What do you think, Chris?
I think you have to look at it as a cost-benefit analysis sort of issue, and you look at how many people are dying by having a controlled immigration policy versus how many people were dying before you had an uncontrolled immigration policy. So when you look at all the people that were sacrificing to come up through South America and up through Mexico, the number of people dying on that route were thousands of people. And so it wasn't like, oh, we had no deaths and now we have 36 deaths or 50 deaths or how many ever deaths we end up having. And then we go back to my favorite line where you have lies, damn lies, and statistics. Well, if a person has a heart attack in prison and dies, is that really the fault of any of this, or was this a random occurrence that happened to happen at the same time? And so you really can't count that. So when you look at this, and then you look at the pain of how much trafficking, and you pointed out how many kids were rescued, and you just look at the sex trafficking and all those other things that also come along with uncontrolled borders. And then we have no idea how many terrorists have made it through the borders, and then the crime that goes along with that, and the drugs that come along with that, and the fentanyl overdoses. Maybe we should count the fentanyl overdoses as well. So you add 100,000 plus the 3,000. So should we risk hundreds of thousands of lives for 50, or just throw up our hands and say, oh, well, we might cost 50 lives, so let's ignore the fact that we could lose 150,000.
Well, and that's the collateral that's the collateral damage we were talking about before the show. We were talking about Dan Bongino, and he's back on the air. In case you've missed it, obviously catch him, because I will tell you personally, from my opinion, obviously Chris doesn't share necessarily my opinion. We can talk about that here in a little bit, but Dan's back on the air, and it's good to have him back because it is a solid voice for trying to walk through these things, because I believe in a lot of cases he's trying to just make sense of it too. And this is where I kind of grab these statistics here. I'll blow it up a little bit bigger so we can see it. From Insurrection Barbie. So I just want to make sure that I have this straight under Obama. 56 people died in ICE custody due to horrible conditions, according to the right-leaning ACLU. So Insurrection Barbie is documenting where she got the source. 3.1 million people were deported, and more than half of them were deported without a hearing or a judge, because that's the big outcry, right? They want everybody to receive due process, or a judge or due process. His guy was Tom Homan, and I think that's a print. Obviously,
yeah, it's H-O-M-A-N.
Yeah, Holman. Come on, Insurrection Barbie. You get the guy's name. Insurrection.
I think he pronounces it that way, even though it's Homan.
It is
There's no
Homan. You
L.
might say Homan.
And it's not
Yeah.
even a silent L. It's just no L.
Noel Homan. Same as now, and he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Every Democrat-run sanctuary city cooperated with ICE. It's different than now. And tell me again how this is not a manufactured outrage of communism or communist revolution. So, yeah.
Well, one of the words I wrote down when I was listening to Obama was consistency and consistency of policy across. But it goes much farther than that. It's consistency of positions and this sudden flip of logic that all of a sudden logic that was solid, made sense, was just given as fact, all of a sudden becomes questioned as in, well, should we really arrest these people? Should we toss them out of the country? Should we allow sanctuary cities where some people do one thing and then other cities do other things? There is no consistency. There's no consistency of at one point we thought we had a lot of people think that IDs for voting made sense. And then all of a sudden that just went away. And we had,
well, I don't know. Is it going away? I think they're going to call it to vote, right? National voter ID.
And even there's inconsistencies. Even the problem is we're having some inconsistencies within the Republican Party, even where Mitch McConnell thinks he's some kind of constitutional scholar and would like to move along. So, and
I don't know. This is the clip you sent me. So let's take
well,
a look at it.
I like that.
Yeah, here it is. Here, let's take a listen real quick. CNN. This is live CNN, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know if that was last night or today, but here we go. Oh, hold on. I want to blow it up. There we go.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
So something
they're in agreement with Nicki Minaj. Get the photo ID, Chris. Get the photo ID.
That right there, that shows this total inconsistency where you've got all the Democrats are voting against that. So that's inconsistent to a 80% approval.
It's not Black people.
And then you've got enough Republicans where it's questionable whether it will even pass with 50 votes, let alone getting rid of the filibuster. So you wonder, where is all this? Where does this come from? Where is this inconsistency in the public opinion versus our representatives? How are they so far off the topic?
Well, Chris, I'm glad you asked that question because I think I have an answer. And it comes here from Wall Street Apes. Obviously, if you don't like, or if you're not subscribing or following them, go out to X and follow them. Shout out to Wall Street Apes. Like to use their content. Another great content provider. But Wall Street Apes says this post got 216,000 likes. Not a single lie spoken. You know who white conservatives despise more? And when you ask who's responsible for this, and I believe that this is what everyone in DC and the bureaucrats are tied into, is they despise more than anyone else. It's not Black people. It's not Hispanics. It's white liberals. Let's just play the video and then I'll get back to the.
Yeah, you need the video to put it in context.
Okay, let's play the video. Let me blow it up here.
You know who white conservatives despise more than anybody else? It's not Black people. It's not Hispanics. It's white liberals. Because the worst parts of the Black community are enabled by white liberal policy. And the worst parts of immigration is a result of white liberal policy. The worst part of the trans community is enabled by white liberal activists. Everything that is wrong with our country is the result of liberal policies that are championed and signed off by white liberals. They destroy everything under the guise of compassion and equality, but in reality, they enable people to remain inferior and infantilize the Black community with taxpayer dollars and incentivize illegal immigrants not only to stay, but to keep them comfortable. And they don't even know it. That's the scary part. They don't even realize that they are the problem when they think they are helping.
Isn't that funny? And you know, that is true. They truly believe they're doing something to make America great again. I said it. They truly believe they are making America great again by coming up with all the things that they have come up with at every turn. They think
they feel like they've missed out on history. So they weren't there to stop slavery. They weren't there to stop the Vietnam War. Some of them may have been. Some are old enough to be there, but a lot of them missed out on that. And so they're looking for the next great cause. And what they've latched onto is that it's a human rights issue to be able to live wherever you want, in whatever country you want, with no restrictions. And that's just not a human right. It's not the way that works. So you have to give somebody the right to live in your country. It's not that you're born with the right to live wherever you want.
You know, this is good. I put this up on my X account and invite you to come out or go out and look at it. It's this one really caught my eye. This is a guy, Scott Pressler, who is very active in initiating voter turnout, especially in the swing states, and basically flipping a lot of counties red just by going out and telling people, this is a novel concept, Chris, hold on. Go and vote. Would you go and vote tomorrow? Would you get out and vote? You know, I noticed here that you haven't voted in over 20 years. Could you just go and do that? Can I show you how you can go do that and make it real easy? But Scott Pressler came up with this, which is pretty cool. Once again, shout out to Scott. He goes by The Persistence, capital P. Scott says, when a black man in America commits a crime, he gets locked up. When illegal aliens break into our country, Democrats reward them with freedom. Getting back to the point about this social justice, right? To every black person in America, ask yourself, why do Democrats care more about illegal aliens than black America? Truth hurts. He's got a video here. I'm going to play it real quick. It kind of covers that, I just said, but let's play it and let it roll. It's a minute 42.
Why are illegal immigrants more important than Americans? I'd like to hear an answer.
Why are people illegal?
Why are illegal immigrants more important than homeless people sleeping on the streets? Why
Oh,
do we in
one of
the biggest economies here in California take care of illegal immigrants, but our people are sleeping on the streets? I'd like to hear an answer to that. Why? Nobody can ever answer that question. Why don't people put American citizens first, but illegal immigrants get everything? And I hope you post this. I want this to go viral because I give a damn and I care about my community. My dad is a retired Navy captain. He served our country honorably. My grandfather is a retired Navy captain, and I'm doing my part to help our country because I give a damn and I'm going to fight for it. And I am 100% voting for Donald Trump on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. The Democrat Party does not put our people first. They put sanctuary cities first. They put illegal aliens first. They tax us. They tax our water. You can't even do laundry and shower on the same day. While Nancy Pelosi is getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, robbing our pockets, not doing anything for our people, not passing legislation, passing out pens like they're candy. Meanwhile, President Trump is signing United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, and he's signing trade deals, and he's cutting our taxes, and he's securing the border, and he's putting our veterans first. I am proud of President Trump. And
how about, hold on, I have to pause it. Chris, how about the lady behind him with the rubber gloves and the mask?
That's working well for her, isn't it? Why does she have the mask off right now?
I don't know, but she's got the rubber gloves and she's got it. I don't know what she's holding. I don't know. Is she with Scott? I don't know. Anyhow,
maybe they're cleaning up the neighborhood there.
you know, he was big into doing that, and that was in Baltimore. And now I see it's Lee's Sandwiches. I think this is during the time when he took to the streets after the crazies were having their protest and their riots, and he actually picked up trash. I don't know how many dumpsters they filled, but okay, so maybe she was helping. So maybe she's actually there supporting Scott in his efforts, but it's only got 20 seconds, not even 20.
And I am voting for him because he's putting the American people first, period.
I'm afraid did that answer
Thank you. Thank you. 2020,
by the way,
register to vote and vote. Thank you.
You know, sometimes we need reminders because that's how it happened, Chris, is if people go out and vote, which it gets back to what are you doing? And I guess that's the point that hopefully I, you, me, we all get across to one another. You can sit back and you can even have your own DPB show. But if you're not truly activated, you're not out there encouraging one other person who's never voted in the last 20 years to go to the polls. These midterms, you know, I'm confident that people are going to show up. I'm confident that people realize the treacherous position we were in, where our economy was at, where this world was at under Joe Biden and his auto pen. We were barely hanging on, and it was intended to implode the American way, the constitutional republic that we have come to love. So they were literally, that's one of the reasons they're so vehemently opposed to everything Trump, is because he caught them. He's caught them, he's exposed them, and now he's going through the process of the cleanup, similar to Scott Presler. You know, that's one thing. And that young lady, you know, bless her heart, man. She deduced what the problem was. It's pretty simple. It's white liberalism. They have driven this country in you look at every aspect, education, entertainment, energy, the housing market, corporate America. They have their tentacles into truly trying to, rewrite history.
The legal profession is one of the biggies too, because
the legal profession,
this army of lawyers that they unleash on everything that Trump ever tries to do. Many people
Chris,
lined up for that.
You know, Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because I am going to share here one of your favorite commentators. I'm just being facetious because Chris obviously. Hold on. Hey, Dan, wait a minute.
You got to do a Stephen K. Bannon. Hang on.
Hey, hang on a second, Dan. I'm not ready for you yet. Golly. Trying to steal the show? You got your own show. You got hundreds of thousands of people tuning in. Can't the DPB show just have a moment here? Hold on. I want to set this up. Chris, you brought out a good point, and here it is. And I haven't heard, Dan's back. I'm glad he's back. Chris, not so much. I hope he warms up to Dan here. He has a lot of things that we are going to discuss. We just might not get to them today. But Dan brought up the very point that you are making, Chris. And this is timely because you are the one who brought it up. Let me make sure that I have him loaded on stage here. Let me add him to the stage in full screen. But he said exactly what the issue is. Here it is.
This is going to be a top 5 problem moving forward. We have got a really, really serious problem in this country. Listen to me, with a bifurcated justice system. If you fit the liberal stereotype of the screaming Karen in a suburban neighborhood, screaming about everything, who wants, to see.
Just so you're wondering out there in the DPB audience, and Chris, I'm sure you would have been busting out the bifurcated. Bifurcated. I'm going to have to go look that one up, but just in case you were wondering, bifurcated.
Men's penises in the women's room. Then you're probably going to be subjected.
Wait a minute. What did I miss there? Oh, hold on.
Bifurcated penises on the show.
Or anyone else who subscribed to conservative or MAGA-based.
I'm going to go back. I'm going back. I interrupted.
You're probably going to be subjected to a different justice system than.
Okay, hold on.
Neighborhood screaming about everything, who wants, to see men's penises in the women's room. Then you're probably going to be subjected to a different justice system than guys like me or anyone else who subscribe to conservative or MAGA-based ideologies. You just are. If a crime happens in a specific venue in a liberal city, we've seen this stuff creep up constantly. But there is a solution for it. But the solution's not pretty, and many of you may not want to hear it. The solution is it's going to take a really long time to get good, high-quality judges, magistrates. So I'm just talking about judges who enforce the law in a nonpartisan manner. Many of these appointments are lifetime appointments, and they're not going anywhere, meaning we have to go and do the hard legwork of elections, where we get people like President Donald J. Trump. We get him elected, who appoints people who are nonpartisan constitutional judges as the others by attrition filter out. It's going to take a long time. The left has been engaged in this battle forever. This is going to be a top 5 problem moving forward.
So, Chris, that's exactly what you said. We got a situation here in America right now that we could clean up all the illegal immigration. We could try to balance, right, to get the ship righted. But at the end of the day, we have people in places of authority, especially in the judicial system, who are, like this young lady said, they're white liberals. Isn't it funny that a lot of these judges that were ruling on Trump's cases were always white liberal men?
Well, it was done by design. Obama was very smart when he was president. He realized that court was the DC circuit was the most important court in the nation, because all those types of rulings would go up through that particular court. And he knew that if he stacked that court, he would get those rulings every time. So whenever they wanted to stop a Republican law, they would just go to that court. If the Republicans tried that trick, they would get thrown out, because that judge would say, "Oh no, that's perfectly fine." So they knew that was the case. They also recognized that they had to set up the district courts and the criminal courts in that area, so that they could lawfare their opponents and get, again, favorable opinions whenever they needed to stop a Republican ruling or prevent the Republicans from stopping them. So they recognized that early on and did everything they could to make those types of appointments. Meanwhile, a lot of the Bush appointees never really panned out quite as well as he had. Well, I don't know if he had hoped that they would pan out better, or they just became more liberal as time went on. But they seem to have changed as time went on, and it's really hard to pick those judges, because they're always changing their positions over time. Once you appoint them, it's hard to verify that they're going to stick with their policies the way they claimed they were going to when they were interviewing for the job, because they do have a lifetime appointment. And which also, so the lifetime appointment gives them the ability to be disagreeable, and nobody can do anything about it, especially if you're not willing to impeach the ones that are really atrocious. And the Republicans haven't shown the will to impeach some of these people who have just made outrageous rulings.
Which is one of the things that we thought would happen is if we controlled the Senate and we controlled Congress, which now we're realizing, once again, it's Washington, D.C. and the bureaucracy that goes on in the leadership. Really, it's all about CYA, which I'm not going to spell it out for you, but it's cover your, and the A word is, of course, your backside. And so you cover your backside. And it's always about perpetuating your ability to stay in office and to linger and be part of it. Really,
Right.
My ongoing subtle comedy with Darren Bailey, my friend Darren, gubernatorial candidate, is this. What's the difference between a Democrat from Chicago and a Republican? Not a lot. They really are they've coexisted for so long in a pressure cooker that they've really melded into just one being, really. For the most part, they're always fighting about what? Economics, money. They all want their own money and they all want their own way. And it's never about the Constitution. It's never about the way of life for the American people. In fact, Chris, gosh, things are flowing great today in segues. Here it is. I'm going to put this up. Chris, look at that. Do you see that on your screen? Can you read that?
Yeah.
Do you see what it says?
Yeah.
Genesis 47. That's in the good old BIBLE, basic instruction before leaving earth, the Bible, the Old Testament. Slaves owned by Pharaoh were required to pay him 20% of their income, crop harvest. Fast forward to 2023 AD. The median U.S. taxpayer pays 24.8% income tax along with 7.65% FICA taxes on his taxed income. He then pays sales tax, property tax, gas tax, and many other taxes and fees. Wow, Chris. What was that commercial? You've come a long way, baby. Wasn't that for a smoking commercial?
Yeah.
Camels or something?
Smoking for women.
Yeah, smoking for women.
I'm watching Mad Men on HBO Max, and it's all about that era of promoting cigarettes and drinking at work and all the other bad behavior that we've gotten rid of over time. But it's interesting how people were conned into those. Just a clever phrase would convince people to go out and smoke their brains out. So,
Chris, did you live in town when I think it was called the Grand Hotel? Was it the Grand Hotel? It was a little farmhouse. There's a Jehovah's Witness temple or whatever they call it, Kingdom Hall, built there now. But I think it was the Grand Hotel. Somebody in the comments section, if you know what it was, but it was a little place that served chicken, but it also had and it was known for being frequented by certain corporate employees from the largest corporation here in Bloomington Normal over the lunch hour. Most of them started at lunch and they never went back to work.
Yeah.
That was a thing, right? Back in the 70s and 80s.
It really ended. We were talking about watching the show. We talked about it. It really ended at the late 80s is where it ended, because you used to hear about all these 3 martini lunches with lobbyists and things like that. And, people were sloshed. And part of the other thing is how sexist they were towards their, they were called secretaries at the time. And,
yes.
And, you hear some of the stories of, some of the congressmen and the types of secretaries they hired and the attributes that they used for selecting such secretaries.
Talent. It was a talent pool, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was human trafficking in another realm.
Right. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, somebody complained about it, and all of a sudden it became this national controversy in the late 80s over some congressman having an affair with his secretary, and it also corresponded with one
The
of the
feminist movement.
one of the evangelists who had also had an affair with his secretary, and then all of a sudden, that became sexual harassment, and rules changed after that. So it's really, when I first started work, the offices still had cigarette ashtrays in there.
Yeah.
And then pretty much I think about the first year I worked there, then all of a sudden everybody had to huddle around the door and smoke
In the smoking ring outside. They have this.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up, because I remember when I first moved into Bloomington Normal, and I was just shocked because I went to a Catholic school when I went to high school, and it was about the time that I was just exiting high school that my family moved over to Bloomington Normal from Peoria, Illinois. And I never realized that there were something called smoking rings at high schools, but here at Bloomington High School, right outside the door, they had a place that you could go smoke. I was trying to figure out, wait a minute, what is the legal age of smoking? And I think at that time it was 18. So I guess if you were in high school and you were 18, you could bring your cigs and you could go out and have a cig break. I thought that was fascinating. These times they are changing.
Yeah. I mean, some of them for the better, obviously, but
I appreciate the white liberals for instituting non-smoking rings at high schools.
Yeah.
Since we are blaming the liberals for everything, there are things that liberals do, the true sense of the word liberals, that they do that do benefit culture and society. Unfortunately, they can't stop at a point. They have to go all the way.
Yeah, well, that's
to the land to make
that's
believe.
the problem with politics in general, is you fix a problem and then you have to find a new one to run on. So you're constantly moving ahead. And if you're just sticking to things like immigration, well, once you've stopped it, everybody says, oh, well, it's fixed. And then they get bored and move on to other things. So you really have to be constantly refreshing the problems that you're solving so that people want to continue to vote for you. One thing I want to point out is I wore my Gulf of America shirt today because last weekend, see, Gulf.
I see it. I see your Gulf of America. I saw it when, I saw when you come on.
Yeah, so Gulf of America. And the reason I did that was on Maria Bartiromo's show this weekend. The ambassador to Mexico was on trying to explain how, no, we're not trying to influence immigration policy in the United States, and those 60-some consulates really aren't making any influence in the country at all. And when you looked at his background, he had a map on the wall, and it had Gulf of Mexico on there. And so I thought I should wear my sweatshirt today to correct him so that he realizes the proper nomenclature for the Gulf of America.
And Chris actually was kind enough that he bought when he and his wife were down at Florida, they bought a sweatshirt, and Chris and I actually went to a local minor league hockey game here in town, and we both donned on our Gulf of America sweatshirts. I just actually had mine out the other day. I was wearing it. Chris, we're gonna have to get together again, both of us, and go out and grab a beer and have our matching Gulf of America sweatshirts on. People will think that, that we're a couple, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But we'll have our matching sweatshirts on. Hey, speaking of that,
what I think we should do is, there's all these award ceremonies, and there's always some pompous clown out there saying something stupid. And so rather than have the Grammys or the Academy Awards, we'd wear our shirts, and they'd be the FUs.
The FUs. Now we don't have to explain that to anybody.
And we give an FU for somebody who says something particularly offensive or stupid.
Well,
You know,
well,
like
speak-
Bad Bunny, maybe he would get an
Oh,
FU.
gosh, I heard the Bad Bunny the other night on the Grammys. I couldn't tune in.
I
Those-
can't
don't-
believe that he's going to be the Super Bowl entertainment.
Well, he's not for me because I'm going
Well-
with the alternate. You know, my daughter was upset because she thought they should have the right to pick. I have no idea why. What's his name?
Bad
oh,
Bunny.
gosh. No, the commissioner
Oh,
of the
yeah.
NFL. Goodall. Is it
Yeah.
still Goodall or whatever his name is?
I
Whatever. his name is.
I quit watching for the most part because I couldn't take all the liberalism, the multi versions of the national anthem. And,
Well, he's doubling down. The commissioner
yeah,
of the
he
NFL is doubling down, saying that he made the right selection. So, speaking of the Grammys, because Bad Bunny did receive, I don't know what award for what, I don't care, but somebody else received an award the other night, and I have him here on with his acceptance. And this is, you talk about the proverbial back at you, because there was a lot of fodder. Other people, Sadie Robertson of Duck Dynasty fame, she received an award the other night for something in the Grammys, but this gentleman received it, and I'm gonna throw him on stage here and blow it up. That's right, Jelly Roll. He is obviously he's half of the physical
man, he used to
person.
be.
He
And
is
twice the man still.
yeah,
Right.
twice the man, because he had an opportunity to let the world know what he believed the other night. And I'm going to go ahead and play the whole minute and 13, and then we're going to pray our way out of today's show, because obviously it ain't going to stop. Ain't no stopping us now, because we're going to be back on Thursday anyway.
I know they're going to try to kick me off here, so just let me try to get this out. First of all, Jesus, I hear you and I'm listening, Lord. I am listening, Lord. Second of all, I want to thank my beautiful wife. I would have never changed my life without you. I'd have ended up dead or in jail. I'd have killed myself if it wasn't for you and Jesus. I thank you for that. I thank you for my label, Broken Bow, Country Radio, baby. What's up, dog? Oh, Republic, John Manili, we did it, baby. There was a time in my life, y'all, that I was broken. That's why I wrote this album. I didn't think I had a chance, y'all. There was days that I thought the darkest things. I was a horrible human. There was a moment in my life that all I had was a Bible this big and a radio the same size and a 6-by-8-foot cell. And I believed that those two things could change my life. I believed that music had the power to change my life and God had the power to change my life. And I want to tell y'all right now, Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him. I love you, Lord.
I love you, Lord. Reba, how about it, Reba? I'm gonna go out. You know what, Chris? I'm going out and buying the album. I mean, after Joe Rogan, had Jelly Roll on and watching.
Yeah,
Joe
he was.
Rogan,
That was a really.
like
That was a good interview. I really like
interview.
that.
And here the other night, these folks, they were laying in wait. They all wanted to come out and bash, the federal government and everything good about what America stands for, is because that's what they become. But to have people like Jelly Roll witnessing to all those people, they couldn't help. A lot of them didn't go away with a Grammy. Jelly Roll did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a powerful image that he put forth, to paint that picture of being in a jail cell as a prisoner with a little Bible. You've seen them; they're Gideon Bibles, the little ones, and I think they come in other versions, but translations. But then to have a little radio, transistor radio, that was his life. But he believed there were two things that could lead him to the promised land, to a better place, and he acted upon it. I know a lot of people are like, wow, that dude's got tattoos all over his face. Well, yeah, I think he'll never get rid of them, because I think it's what reminds him of how far he's come and what he has done to persevere, because that's the land we live in. I don't know Jelly Roll's politics. He's in country music. My assumption is if he probably sides more with us on the conservative side, because he's overcome all the darkness. Because, see, conservatives, we don't stand usually I'm not talking for everyone, but there are plenty of weirdos out there in the conservative movement too. But true conservatives, we don't believe in children being raped. We don't believe in people being allowed to live in a country unobstructed by the laws of the land and they could have their way. We don't agree with that. We think that's wrong. We believe that people should have intestinal fortitude, should get up every day and should make a better way for their lives. Yes, we believe in equality, but not equality of outcome. That's what the crazies believe, who've indoctrinated people into that thinking that everybody should have an equal share and we should divide life up that way. No, we believe in equality of opportunity, meaning everybody should have the same chance to make something better of themselves. And that way, they can't cry or complain when it doesn't happen because they are the ones who are who are responsible for their outcomes because it's the opportunity was there. So we do get it wrong, obviously, diversity, equity, and exclusion. I love this one. Did you hear that today?
Yeah.
Diversity, equity, and exclusion, because there is no inclusion when it comes to the crazies. They exclude anybody that doesn't agree with them. So it has nothing to do with inclusion. It has everything to do with exclusion. I don't agree with them. So therefore, I'm excluded, which is okay because I want to be excluded. I want to be on the outside. I want to be following what Jelly Roll did, which is to know that my Lord and Savior is, at the end of the day, we all leave this earth. There's eternal life for everyone. It's just a matter of where you'll spend it. That's at the end of the day. And it's pretty simple how one is able to achieve what Jelly Roll was referring to there. And that is a belief, right? As you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you believe and confess and believe, obviously the same thing. And you confess that he is the Lord of your life. ABC. Accept, believe, and confess. That's how you do it. It's for everybody. It's nothing that I've done. I can't earn it. I don't, and believe me, I'm not Jelly Roll or anything, but there's a lot of bad things that old DPB is not, proud of in his past. But the best part about it is those things are behind me. And I can't even hardly recall them in my life anymore because once you've chosen to live in the light is much better than the darkness. So, all right, Chris, we're 5:04. Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
Chris, guess what? We're going to be back. Before we know it.
Yep.
And Chris, I didn't get to everything that you shared with me today, but I did want to make sure that I do get to a couple other pieces. The piece that you sent out from Hakeem Jeffries on, they're not going to censor or boot.
That's the whole consistency thing again. Republicans, the minute somebody even gets accused of something, they're willing to throw them out of the caucus, and
they whacked what's his name.
They're right there keeping them on, and that doesn't even address the Ilhan Omar issue.
Oh, and we're going to get into that. So I'm going to bring that video up. The other one is you sent me the Newsmax piece. Blue states losing population but gaining voters. 25 states auto register illegals to vote when they get their driver's license. This is something that people don't realize when we talk about the disparity and what is transpired. This is the only hope they have. Their only hope for a victory in the midterms, because they know that the math doesn't math. And they have to figure out.
Beast. That's the issue. They're a cornered beast, and a cornered beast will fight like crazy no matter what it takes. And that's where they're at. They have to fight all these things regardless so that they can stay relevant.
That sounds like almost like Revelation, the cornered beast, because there is a beast in Revelation. But we're going to talk more about that. We will be back on Thursday. Chris, obviously, as always, I'm going to wrap us up with prayer. Father God, we we thank you. We thank you for this time. We thank you for this opportunity to talk about things that are close to our hearts. Granted, Father God, you know, we don't have all the answers. You do. And we turn to you. As Jelly Roll said, you know, Jesus Christ is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, blue or red. It doesn't matter if you're a liberal or conservative. Jesus Christ died for everyone. And we thank you for that, Lord. We thank you. We thank you. And we pray all these things in the precious name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. And thank you, sister. Look at that. This last one, Tanya, thank you. Great show, she says. Appreciate it. Mark, great show. Thank you. I don't know who else we have in the comment section. Yep, but we had a few. Thank you for everyone that showed up today. Go out, like, subscribe. Chris and I'll be back here 4:00 on Thursday, which will be the 5th of February. Don't forget, for all those out there, Valentine's Day is approaching. Don't forget your sweethearts. Don't forget your children. Make it special day for them. I love Valentine's Day. I like all holidays. And no, I don't have to debate whether they're a pagan holiday or not. It doesn't matter. They're American holidays. And that's what I love about them. They're American holidays. Let's celebrate them like the Gulf of America. All right. I love you. Chris loves you. But Jesus loves you more. We'll see you guys back here on Thursday.